Well, I've finally got a list of killer horror fiction to share with you, and to say that I'm looking forward to this event is an understatement. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. You're with Chris, and today it's time to share with you my reading picks for Horror Mayhem, which is just around the corner, and I cannot wait. Now, after some due consideration, I'm happy with these reading possibilities I've come up with, and I've made sure this year that I have increased my chances of ticking off as many prompts from that bingo card I discussed in my last video that all the hosts are aiming for, which is going to be a challenge, make no mistake. Now, Ollie over at Criminoli is going for gold. He is going to try and tick off every prompt. Good on him. I love that attitude, and I'm going to try as well, but I don't think I'll get them all, but I'll come close with the amount of stories I've got to read this year. And with reading plenty of stories, you increase your chances of ticking as many off as possible. Now, with this project, I've also again included a list of all the hosts, so you can go and check out their channels and their awesome content, because everyone on this project has very good views towards horror fiction, and some of the hosts already have picked some brilliant books that I never would have thought of. So it's going to be a very diverse project where there are going to be a multitude of tastes, and I'm looking forward to watching all their videos as the event kicks off on the 1st of May. Alright, so let's get into what I came up with, going through each prompt separately by each week. So week number 1 is local horror. Now, just touching on that again, it is any horror that is local in your area. I defined it also as a local horror writer who lives near you, if that is at all possible. But with this one, you also had to do a little bit of work and research any ghost stories set in your area. And with me, it was a little bit hard. The first one I came up with was an Australian author. Now, this book was set in Broken Hill, and it's called Wake in Fright. It was made into a movie in the late 70s. We had to read this one in school. I've been looking for an excuse to read this, and it's all about psychological horror and how a teacher finds himself stranded in the outback, and he comes to this pub, and all the people there are pretty strange from what I remember. But it's not a bad pick for a local author, and Broken Hill is a fair way away from me. However, I do have another choice that I did make, which is a little bit closer to home, if you will, and that is Picnic at Hanging Rock. Now, this one is, I think there's basic horror elements there about the disappearance of the schoolgirls on the picnic. Hanging Rock is actually located 52 kilometres away from me, so it's not that far, and that is the closest I can get with something horror related that I can read. And I've been intrigued by the book for a number of years, and it is also a classic. I think it's been published in Penguin Orange, and looking forward to delving into that one. Now, because both books are fairly short, I should be able to smash both of those books out in a week, so I'll have a little bit to talk about. But in terms of local horror, it was a challenge to come up with something, and I was actually pleased to have 2 choices for that prompt. Okay, moving on to week number 2, and that is movie week, which I'm really looking forward to. I picked out 3 books for this one. The first one was The Omen by David Seltzer, and I think that's going to be very interesting. It's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but it's a very famous book, and I'm pretty keen for that one. I did also pick out The Butterfly Effect novelisation, something that I've been wanting to read for quite some time. It is one of my favourite movies of all time, but it's not really horror. It was written by James Swallow, and I was just scratching around for different reads and things like that, and came up with that one. But the other one I want to read that I'm really keen on is the novelisation of Poltergeist by James Caan. Poltergeist happens to be my favourite horror movie of the 80s. There is no question. I've seen it countless times. Whenever it comes on TV, I just have it on in the background, and it was on literally the other week, actually. And with some original movies, sometimes the sequels aren't as good. In this case, Poltergeist 2 is equally as good as the first one. I love that one with the preacher Kane, played by Julian something or other, who was very, very creepy in the role. But I think reading the Poltergeist novelisation will be an experience, because it depends on at what stage of the script that the novelisation was written. Obviously, the producers gave James Caan the script to novelise it. Now, if the script had been in a various stage of drafting and it wasn't the final script, there are chances that you might read some things that didn't appear in the movie, and I find that very intriguing. It's like reading a director's cut but in a book. So really looking forward to reading that one and having the movie play out in my head as I read. I think that's going to be very exciting, and can't wait to talk about that with you. So I think The Omen and The Poltergeist are two sure things, and again, 2 books in the 1 week, which will be fantastic, so it's going to keep me busy. Alright, let's talk about week 3, which is classics. Now, in my last video I mentioned that classics can be defined, and I agreed with Gareth on this. It can be defined as the 70s and 80s, which is the Renaissance period for horror fiction. And one of these I stole from Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads. When I watched his TBR, I heard him talk about this one, and I thought, that intrigues me. How do I not know about this? And that is called Dark Forces from 1980, which contains The Mist by Stephen King, among other good-looking stories in there, which I'm keen to get into. So thanks, Greg, for that recommendation. And I'm also going to be doing Night Shift by Mr. Stephen King from 1978. It's been a long time since I've read that one, and looking forward to diving right in. And the third pick I chose was Dark Companions by Ramsey Campbell from 1982, which, as you know, Ramsey Campbell is a classic horror author from the 70s and 80s, and I haven't read much of his fiction at all, so it'll be new territory for me to explore, and looking forward to that. So combined, all those 3 titles should contain at least 50 stories or so. So definitely increases my chances of ticking off as many of those prompts on the bingo card as possible. Alright, now let's move into week number 4, which is contemporary. Anything written post-2000s by horror authors, which isn't really hard, because there are heaps of really good authors who are new on the scene as of the year 2000. So the first one, I stole this one from Greg as well, thanks Greg, and this one's going to be Lurking in the Dark, a Horror Tube anthology. Now, what makes this great is it's written by local authors in the Horror Tube community and the BookTube community, and it contains a foreword by our very own co-host Steve Donahue, which is great. It also has a story in there by Pax Panic as well, which will be nice to read about. And I've also got At Home with the Horrors by Sammy Scott. There's 14 tales in here. He's a self-published author. I believe he's Australian as well, and looking forward to reading those. I can't wait to see what is in store for me. Really looking forward to that. And supporting an indie author as well, which is always a nice thing to do. The next collection I have chosen is Quarter to Midnight by Darcy Coates, another Australian author. She has 15 stories in this one, and they all sound great, and looking forward to that. So again, it's increasing my chances for ticking off those prompts. And lastly, I chose Ghost Written by Ronald Malfi. This is only a recent release. Ronald Malfi is a great horror writer, and this one is a collection of 4 novellas, which sound really good. We've got In the Skin of Her Teeth, a cursed novel drives people to their deaths. That sounds pretty cool. We have another one, A Delivery Job Turns Deadly in the Dark Brothers' Last Ride. And we have In This Book Belongs To, Ollo, a lonely child who has dangerous control over an unusual pop-up book. And finally, we have a choose-your-own-adventure game that spirals into an uncanny reality in the story. So they're going to be nice and short and sweet, and looking forward to reading novella-length works as well. So they are my picks for Horror Mayhem. Now, as time goes on during the month, I may just include something in out of left field if something takes my fancy as well in the meantime. However, I think I'm pretty happy with these choices, and I will commit to those, and just looking forward to an absolutely brilliant month along with the co-hosts I can't wait to hear what their weekly videos are like and their update videos based on previous years. All the content that they provide has been awesome, and I'm just really happy to be a co-contributor here for this project. It is this reading project and the co-hosts in particular are the reasons why I did come back to YouTube after a bit of a hiatus with some personal struggles there, but it is so good to be back filming content and sharing it with everyone. Now, thanks again to the Bookish Brian, Scott and Becky for creating this project in the first place. They're not going to be a part of the project this year, but I hope they will be watching the content because I think they are in for a treat with what the hosts have planned for their videos, and yeah, we'll be thinking of them and hoping that they get back to YouTube very, very soon. So there you go, guys. That is it for my reading picks for Horror Mayhem. Looking forward to it. Can't wait. And yeah, it all kicks off on the 1st of May. So thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll promise to deliver the best content I can. Offer up any feedback in the comments below, and I'm always happy to respond to that. But until the next video, guys, happy reading.